Hello and welcome to another edition of Betting People. Today we have a very special guest as one of the people who is leading racing's fight back against COVID-19. It's a privilege and an honour to be joined by the Chief Executive of Racing Welfare, Dawn Goodfellow. Dawn, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you, William. Very lucky, keeping very well, thank you.
We are all very glad to hear that. I'm sure I speak for everybody when we say that. So Racing Welfare obviously is hugely involved at this time and supports people in racing. There are an awful lot of charitable causes in racing, so just tell us a bit more about what Racing Welfare does.
So Racing Welfare works after the people who work in racing. Apart from jockeys who would be looked after by the Injured Jockeys Fund, we look after everybody else. So whether you're working on a stud, working in a training yard, on a race course, as part of administration of the industry, all of those people would be our constituents. And that's from both the beginning, from right at the beginning of their careers through and beyond and into retirement as well.
Wonderful, thank you very much for that. Now, all charities are facing big challenges with coronavirus. Explain to us sort of the scale of what Racing Welfare is having to deal with at the moment.
Well, at the moment, we are seeing an awful lot of people coming to us. It's what we do anyway. As I say, we look after people who work in racing. We look after their mental and physical well-being, support with issues around debt management, benefit, all sorts of different things, career development. But at the moment, obviously, we're seeing a very intense period. So last week, as a package of measures agreed by the Racing Foundation and the Levy Board, they allocated £750,000 towards a hardship grant, that's hardship of individuals. And we will be responsible for dispersing that grant. We've already given out, I think, over 70 grants to people who are in real need, whether they've been laid off from their jobs or been furloughed from their jobs and are waiting to be paid. And of course, also at the moment, people are suffering possibly much more with issues like mental health. People are worried if they're going into work, and a lot of people who work with horses are, of course, still going into work. They're worried about social distancing, about the implications of this dreadful disease. And if they're not going into work, people are becoming very isolated at home. And so we've been doing a lot of work around things like a toolkit, which we did in partnership with Great British Racing for people who are working from home or not working from home, things to keep yourself busy, keep a positive mindset, keep yourself fit. We're also, with the retired population that I mentioned, doing a lot of outbound calls. So normally we'd be running events, outings, trips for those people to bring them together to help prevent loneliness and social isolation. Well, of course, that's not possible now. So we're doing some virtual events, but also, as I say, we've called over 700 people, checking in on their welfare, checking whether there's anything that they need because they're isolated. And so, yes, it's what we do, but it's an awful lot more intense at the moment. Our welfare officers are dealing with a lot of people on a daily basis. As I say, we're issuing hardship grants, but also working with them to make sure that they're getting all the statutory benefits that they're entitled to. So you'll have seen a lot on the news recently about the government saying people need to apply for universal credit. Our welfare officers are all benefits trained, but at the moment the pressure on those systems means that they're having to spend a lot more time with people, helping them to get what they're entitled to as well.
Okay, and to give us a scale of the idea of how big Racing Welfare is, how many people work for you?
So we have 45 people who work for us, and of those, 28 would be involved on the welfare side. We also then have a fundraising team and a communications team, as well as our operations team, who support everybody and keep the show on the road, basically.
And obviously, you normally would raise money for a lot of events where people would gather at racecourses up and down the country, sometimes at yards, etc. How are you replacing, if at all possible, those sorts of events?
So as you say, we would normally be running a lot of our own fundraising events, but also have people, third-party events too. So for example, the London Marathon would be an event that we raise a lot of money from as well. So we're looking at a shortfall at the moment of around £500,000 in lost events and lost revenue between March and September this year. So we're looking at different ways. We've launched an appeal, and you can find details of that on our website and how you can contribute to that. We've also just launched a competition called the Furlong Factor, which was inspired by seeing Deirdre and Angus Johnston singing on social media. And so inviting people who work in racing or retired from racing to enter, and they can send in a short video clip until the end of tomorrow. And then next week we'll have finals and then heats and then a final for people. So we're pleased with the uptake that has had, and of course it's raised our profile as well, but hopefully we will encourage people to donate to the appeal through that next week too.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just as an aside, some charities are getting support and help from the government. Has that been the case with you?
Well, we're in a slightly different position in that the job retention scheme, furloughing people, applied to charities as well. But of course, our workforce at the moment is busier than it's ever been. So it's not really possible for us to furlough people. The other money that is being given out, there's a substantial amount that's gone to hospices. We're just waiting to see, there are other grants that are going to charities who are providing frontline information, advice and guidance, and certainly that would be something we do. So at the moment we're just waiting to see whether that will apply to us. We haven't had any government money as such so far, and we don't normally get any. We're wholly charitably funded, so we don't get any statutory funding either from the government or from the industry.
And also, just quickly on another note, you're part of the racing COVID-19 industry workforce. Tell us a bit more about what that involves.
So twice a week we meet virtually, obviously, and it's the leaders of all the different constituent groups, the horsemen, so trainers, jockeys, stable staff, thoroughbred breeders, owners, and the race courses. And it's looking at the implications of what's going on at the moment for each of those groups. And so feeding into that a lot of information. So from my part, I lead on the people work stream. So I'm reporting back on the impact we're seeing on the people of the industry. One of the work streams is looking at resumption of racing. So there's a lot of planning going on into how we might get back to racing, when we might get back to racing, what that will look like in the short, medium and long term. And then there's a finance group that with a group that worked with the Racing Foundation and the Levy Board last week to bring together the package that they announced, and also working with government. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, working with the DCMS, Departure, Culture, Media and Sports, looking at what the government's thinking is as far as events being able to be held and so on again. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes to ensure that racing stays in the best possible shape and that it's ready to go as soon as we are safely able to resume racing.
And last but never least, if somebody has to be watching this and they need a chat, need to reach out, what should they do?
So they can ring our helpline. So we have a 24-hour helpline. They can contact us on 0800 6300 443. Or if they go to our website, they can go to our support line digitally as well. But please don't struggle and don't feel you're alone, because we're here to help you. And our welfare officers have a wealth of knowledge and experience, as well as I say, of being able to put people in touch with one another and stop those feelings of isolation.
A very good note upon which to end part one of this Better People interview. Thank you very much for your time, Dawn Goodfellow.